So here we are on Splitting Hairs. Today's episode, we're joining director of photography and director Bailey Picorni.
Hey, how's it going?
Good.
Currently nursing a lost voice, but we'll go with what we go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So let's talk about your hair real quick.
All right.
What do you visualize? What would you like to see?
It's funny because I met you through Melio's and you cut my hair, and every time I came back, I haven't found anyone that could do as good a job with curly hair. So.
Yeah, you've got the curl going on. I love it.
It's you gotta love what you got.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking definitely getting, especially when the summer months arrive, when the sun hits, it can get kind of crazy. So I'm thinking taking a lot of the length on the side and the back, and kind of keeping it messy on top, and maybe trimming up the bangs.
A little bit, yeah. But keeping it pretty much a good amount of length. Just taking this in and this out in the back.
Yeah, you can pretty much just lose that.
Yeah, that's kind of what I'm thinking too. Perfect.
And if you get any kind of inspiration, just let me know, but go ahead.
Go with it?
Yeah.
All right, so I'm going to start with it dry just because I'm going to use the clippers a little bit in the back. Just to eliminate the length that we don't need.
Yeah, gotta honor the procedure.
Yeah, there you go. All right, so let's...
Is it agreeing with the lav?
Is it what?
Has it agreed with the lav mic?
Yeah. All right. So, what's been going on with you?
Well, suppose the most recent thing that's been going on with me is that I worked on probably the highest quality project that I have.
Oh, yeah?
I was the director of photography, and to those at home or in this room that do not know the meaning of a director of photography, or cinematographer, it is the person that is in charge of the camera and lighting department of any given film set, TV, to a lesser extent reality.
They're not really dealing with content or the actors as far as what the storyline or anything like that.
When it comes to performance, that's specifically the director, and that is probably where the passion lies with me. But I definitely do love being a director of photography. But in terms of content, the director of photography is kind of where the technical and artistic sides of the film process kind of meet. There are many departments that do that.
Yeah.
But one of the things, suppose the overarching theme to it is that it takes all of the visual elements and it kind of molds them to help tell the story visually.
Right.
So,
So that's kind of where you're,
Yeah, so what ideally what you want is for the visual style, the framing of the shots, the composition, all to kind of emphasize what's going on emotionally with these characters, what's going on for the overarching story, and kind of a good way to think about it is the sign of some good cinematography is that if you can understand what's going on in the picture to an extent with the sound off.
Okay, so that's so funny. We were just talking about this before you came here, where I was talking about a specific, we were talking about horror.
Oh, I love horror.
Styles of horror.
Yeah, that's my jam.
Yeah. And it seems to be pretty, close to every director or, videographer or whatever part, pretty consistent. And we were talking about some of the scariest movies and styles and stuff.
Do you have a scariest movie that you like?
Yeah, I was talking about, have you ever seen, it's called, there's two versions. So there's an American version, they redid it, but the original was from Spain, and it was called REC.
REC. Oh, there you go. Is it like a found footage kind of film?
Kind of.
Like Blair Witchy? Uh-oh.
Sort of.
No,
No, you're
don't
right
despair.
though. Yeah, you're right though. No, but it's a woman that kind of is doing like a documentary style type video, where she's visiting like a firehouse and things go awry.
And spookiness
basically.
ensues.
Yeah, and it's not so much found footage. It's like, oh, this wasn't the intention, but here we are, and here's what came out of it.
Are you seeing from the lens that the woman's using?
Yeah, from the video camera lens.
Yeah.
So, which at some points it does get like, if all that's going on, how are you still holding a camera?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But
Yeah, there's a layer of like suspension of disbelief, right?
Right.
When you watch Blair Witch, it's like, would I really be holding on to
the
that?
American version is called Quarantine.
Oh, that sounds familiar, but I haven't seen it.
Yeah.
Oh, I saw the trailers for that. Was that any good?
Oh my God. I think for me, like anytime anyone asks me, that is the scariest movie I've ever seen.
All right.
Like it just, it's
It's pretty spoopy.
And and so they redid it, and they did a really good job of like following almost literally per frame
Oh, nice.
of the original record. And but what you were saying though is I was like, I watched the original version after I'd seen Quarantine, so that's maybe not totally a fair assessment, but I didn't read a single subtitle. You knew exactly what was going on through every you know what I mean. You didn't need to. You didn't need to hear anything. It was done like like what you're talking about. That's exactly.
Oh, that's excellent to hear. Yeah, especially when it's all in Spanish.
Yeah, I mean it was funny because I love foreign films, but sometimes I have a hard time because my eyes aren't so great. Even with my glasses, I know I'm gonna always have that issue even throughout as I get older and all that good stuff. So like as my eyes have gotten worse, I've always kind of been like, foreign film. Shoot, now I have to
No, I need to read while I watch. Yeah, I understand.
I'll do it. I just have to be like prepared. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
In that.
need to be emotionally, physically, and mentally prepared to watch it.
Yeah. So, but in this case, you don't need to.
Oh, that's excellent.
Yeah.
I'll have to check it out. I might not have to worry too hard. I also speak Spanish.
You do or you don't?
I do.
You do? Okay, so it would probably be even easier for me. Yeah. Unfortunately, I'm a layman when it comes to that.
I don't know if I would use the word layman.
But I mean,
native English speaker is pretty, there's no shame there.
Yeah, I've always thought, God, I wish we just learned more,
Yeah.
Or we're forced to, it's part of our curriculum,
Yeah. Did you not have to learn Spanish in school?
No.
Really?
No.
I had to take, I think, like, at least a couple years of it in middle school and high school.
Mm-hmm.
But I ended up taking about 6 from like 8th grade up until the end of high school. Well, probably like 6th or 7th. And it all disappeared.
Yeah, because if you're not using it, it's just like...
It turns out if you don't use it, you lose it.
If you're not playing every day, you're not going to keep up. It's like, and it even crosses over to hair.
Yeah.
If you're not, that muscle memory, if you're not doing it every day.
But if you come back to it, it will come back.
Yeah, I was going to say, it doesn't mean it's lost.
Yeah.
It just means,
Yeah, I was just, last May, I was traveling for the whole month solo through Peru. And, when I got there, they're like, oh, do you speak Spanish? And I'm like, yeah. And they're like, okay. Blah, 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 blah. And I'm just like,
no, I don't speak Spanish.
Yeah, but then by the end of the month, and I was like, I was doing the blah, 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 blah. So it was...
Because it came back that quick.
It comes back, and there's something about, learning from a textbook is, it's all well and good, but it does not kind of put definition to emotional memory. It's like, oh, mariposa means butterfly. It's like, okay, that's just a vocabulary word and you'll get it right on the test and forget about it forever. But when you're, in the jungle and you see them and you have to speak to the, the natives or whomever is with you in that moment, you have that experience, that emotion, that visual memory, and you're like, oh, mariposa.
Yeah.
And so it's a much deeper, it's like a brain massage. And then the more you delve into it, the languages will actually start kind of contesting in your brain, and you'll start thinking in Spanish.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's cool. I didn't, you were saying with school and stuff, I didn't do the Spanish. I took many years of French.
Oh, there we go. Parlez-vous français?
Yeah,
I don't. That's all I know how to say is so.
But I had my motivation for that was that
French guys.
No, not even. However, I very well received in my department. But no, it was my relatives. I have a whole side of my family that are Canadian.
Oh,
And,
nice.
Yeah, and
The French Canada.
yeah, and like one of my uncles is was a Mountie, and I have another cousin.
No way.
Yeah.
Were you able to speak French to them?
Well, so when I was little,
Yeah.
absolutely spoke it, or I don't know how much I spoke it, like because I don't have a memory of it, but understood everything that was happening around me, and they all, you know what I mean, were
Nice.
fluent, and from what I've been told was I was not fluent necessarily when you're that little.
Yeah.
But I always knew what was going on around me, and I always used to think, growing up, that I just loved how it sounded and everything. And had a little period where I was obsessed with France and going there. And
Oh, dude, yeah. Well, you got to make it full circle now by watching a French horror film.
yeah. Oh, and I was all into. So when I was like in high school, like super young, I was obsessed with France, and I wanted to go. And my grandmother finally took me there, and then, like you're saying, at first it was like, oh my God. But, like, I was kind of not the translator, but I was kind of the communicator for our little group.
Yeah, and there are many kinds of communication, so you kind of start to pick up. Once you have, like, a little bit of the words, you can, like, understand that they're, the deeper layers of communication, kind of the language beyond words.
But what I did learn pretty quick, though, is, actual French from France.
Oh, yes.
Very different than the French in Canada.
You have to learn, learning the curse
anywhere,
words.
South Africa, wherever they're speaking.
Yeah, Peruvian
French
Spanish,
is
very different.
main language.
Mm-hmm.
So, but yeah, it's pretty cool.
Oh, yeah. Dude, travel's where it's at.
So Peru, though, you were in. What were you doing there?
Well,
specifically?
let me organize that. I was so one of my longtime passions has always been to kind of do work like they do for National Geographic.
Yeah.
And like should that job ever come to me by
If photography was my that's absolutely the where I would be too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely.
I totally hear you.
I know that they hire locally, which is very responsible of them these days, and the whole company's kind of gotten overhaul. But when it comes to matters of where like the passion lies in one's heart, it's like I'll keep doing it until someone pays me, and if they never do, I'll never stop doing it.
Right.
And so I was down there doing my own filming.
Just on your own, just sort of like I'm going to do this. And
yeah,
I'm just going to head out and do it.
It just happened to be the thing to do, So I was.
Were you teamed up with anybody?
No, I was all solo.
Oh wow!
Yeah.
Look at you. That's pretty brave though, because it's not exactly like a territory that you can just, it's not like going to, the Bahamas. It's like
Yes, it is not.
Peru is pretty intense. There's a lot going on.
Well, yeah, and it was funny. I was going in the middle of their presidential election,
Wow.
and by no means was it a dangerous place, but it was just like so, goddamn interesting to, because everybody there is like, oh yeah, politics super corrupt. So we're just choosing the next one, and and so it was fascinating, and I even saw like some rallies where they were kind of parading around and cheering on their candidate. But in terms of like safety, I never felt like I was.
You never felt like you were.
No, I stuck out like a sore thumb,
I was gonna say, was being an American like?
Well, yeah, definitely, because and it's funny because like as a straight white male, rarely do I get to feel as though I'm exotic in any way.
Right.
So going there, being 6'2", bright eyes and light skin, and the Peruvian people are a shorter people.
They are. They're definitely.
And so I got a lot of looks, and it's fine. You start to not worry about it. But I'm also carrying around like a backpack with a tripod and camera equipment, and people are just like, oh, what the hell's this guy up to?
Yeah. So were you in like cities?
So I started in Lima, and Lima is very beautiful, and parts of Lima can be like parts of Chicago. And it's the same kind of thing, like if somebody comes to visit Chicago, like we are the murder capital of the United States, like you just don't go to some places. So it's like that with Lima, like, you just kind of, it's very helpful to to research or to know someone that can kind of tell you which neighborhoods to avoid, just like here. And even if you find yourself in that place, it's not like you're immediately going to be in danger.
Yeah, I would say, like, I don't know, I have a whole bunch of feelings about that, like, with Chicago.
Yeah, exactly.
I feel like, they say, all that about, like, the murder capital, but, like, for the most part, I think Chicago is, like, one of the friendliest places.
Yeah, and no matter where you go, despite, what some population may do, like, people in general are just trying to live their lives. So as long as you kind of, and there are always going to be rough times and wrong places at wrong times, but like, as long as you just kind of be respectful of the space and the land that you walk on, it should treat you with respect back.
Yeah.
But
so you were by yourself the whole time? Mm-hmm. Wow, that's so cool.
Yeah, and so I started in Lima, and Lima's great. There's like I spent a lot of time in Miraflores, which is like a suburb by the sea, like the ocean. And that's one of the things Chicago's missing. Two things Chicago's missing: the ocean and mountains. But it's beautiful there. And then I linked up with a tour group that landed me in Cusco. Mm-hmm. And Cusco is tucked right into the Andes Mountains, and that's the closest like city with an airport near Machu Picchu.
Did you actually go to Machu Picchu?
Oh, I did.
Oh God, that's like everyone's got a bucket list, or maybe not everyone, but I think everyone should have a bucket list.
Oh my God.
That's one of my big things on there.
Going
to Machu Picchu.
Going to Machu Picchu, like everybody tells you, like, oh, it's one of the wonders of the world. It's pretty cool, and then you see pictures, and you're like, that looks pretty cool.
Yeah.
And then you go,
and it's probably a whole.
It's just like, oh, it's this cool. Like it is one of the most humbling and world expanding moments that I've ever had the honor to be a part of.
Wow.
You can just feel the energy of that land surge up through your feet.
Yeah, I bet. So did you get some like cool shots?
I did. I hiked through the mountains for 3 days and 2 nights, filming and doing time lapses of the stars, and you can see the Milky Way out there. Like it's like so unbelievably beautiful. And
so what did you do with that?
So I edited it all together. I still need to post it. I've got a little distracted.
I totally want to check it out.
Absolutely. I'll post it on my Vimeo page. I think it's pretty close to done. But it was a very amazing experience. And then from there, I went to spend a couple weeks in the jungle in Iquitos near the Amazon River. And the Amazon's absolutely beautiful, everything.
Scary, but
I mean, everything there wants to kill you.
Exactly.
But it's such a different kind of like culture, different just feeling. Because I was in Iquitos, which is a town that there are no roads into. You have to fly.
Really? You have to fly.
You have to fly in. It's just surrounded by jungle.
And there's like a town in the middle of it. What kind of town is it? Is it
it's like a third world city.
Okay.
And it's the buildings can't be more than like 3-4 stories tall, or else they'll sink into the river.
Because the ground can't support it.
Yep, indeed. But it's very interesting. Like folks out there are in a different mode. They're in survival mode, and the town is kind of built off tourism. So you really got to get humble and not worry about because I'm a giant white guy. Like everyone's coming up and asking, me to buy things, and you just kind of have to pull away any kind of, there's just don't be offended about it, because like this is just how these people survive.
Right.
And once you just tell them, they're not going to buy anything. Like I had some guy, like, hey, you want weed, you want coke? And I'm like, no. And he's like, okay, well, what are you here for? And we just start chatting for half an hour, and it's like, yeah, exactly. And they once, it's not as if money's the only thing they're interested in, it's like.
It's just, but yeah.
It's just like once you kind of not worry about that and not let that affect you in any judgmental way, or vice versa, you just have these very interesting conversations with people that you never would have had an opportunity to talk to.
Right.
And and the Amazon River is one of the most beautiful places. They've got dolphins. What? They got dolphins in that river.
Wait a minute. What? How
freshwater
do dolphins
dolphins
get there?
Freshwater dolphins.
How do they get there?
I mean, I believe it connects to the ocean.
So they just kind of like.
They've been living there for many years, thousands. But I'm not sure the origin. But they are freshwater dolphins. They're pink because of the krill that they eat.
What?
Yeah.
Oh my
they're
gosh.
they're like a very ugly variety of cute. They have like these big like lumpy heads.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
So are they friendly? Like, can you,
it's
do
not-
they come, you know?
It's not quite like a SeaWorld experience.
No,
like,
no, I assume not.
they're not angry or anything. They're not dangerous, but you know, you'll always look at like pictures of brochures of people like swimming with them.
Oh, really?
Yeah, but
So you
I did
can't,
not.
I don't think I would. You could not pay me enough money to get into the Amazon River.
There's a lot of stuff in there. You
There's a
know.
lot, you know.
The scary.
I'm afraid enough of just the ocean.
Well, you know. So it's funny that you say that, because the first time that I ever set foot into the ocean was the Great Barrier Reef in Australia. And that was because it was my biggest fear, and I was like absolutely.
Of the ocean?
I was terrified of the ocean, so
That's my biggest fear.
yeah. So I was like, well, I guess what I really got to do is just go jump into it. I just got to go jump into it in Australia.
Yeah.
And it was like and you know, no pun intended, but it was wonderful immersion therapy.
Yeah.
That was a bad pun. Yeah, but once, like, I think I got certified here in Chicago, and for scuba.
Scuba?
Uh-huh.
Oh my God, you did it?
Yeah, oh, absolutely. And I lived on a boat for 3 days and 2 nights out right on the Great Barrier Reef. And once, you know, I realized that probably the scariest part to me was the water going over my head. And so I jumped in, first time really ever in the ocean. And I had a, oh man, what country was he from? He was from New Zealand. This guy from New Zealand, and he was like, okay, you need to deflate your BCD, and which is the buoyancy control device, which is like you inflate like a life preserver. And so the only thing keeping me afloat, and he's like, just deflate that. And I'm like, oh, okay.
Just deflate.
Just sink into the ocean. Okay, cool. Like the giant blue sea of death.
Yeah.
And so I ate up like a quarter of my tank of oxygen, just kind of freaking out there. But once you get your head underwater,
Yeah.
and once you really kind of like immerse yourself in that world, to me it was one of the most peaceful and serene and beautiful opportunities that I've ever had. And kind of, well, things like fear, doubt, depression, anxiety, like they can work like a check engine light on your car, the car of your body and your spirit, you know. And so, you know, I knew that fear was something that I needed to kind of dive straight into.
Right.
And upon doing that, it was incredibly freeing, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, I kind of feel the same way, like about I've been so afraid of the ocean, but it's just like fear of the unknown, like what you don't know.
Yeah. There's a lot of stuff in there.
Yeah, there's a lot of it's.
And you're working in more dimensions in the sense that it's not, you know, it's not on a flat plane.
No.
Stuff above, stuff below.
Yeah, and a lot of, I mean, there's more unexplored territory in the sea than there is on land. And
Yeah.
that just kind of scares. Something about that is terrifying to me.
And I'm not sure if this is a 100% correct figure, but I have heard that we have explored less of the bottom of the ocean. We know more about the surface of the moon than the bottom of the ocean.
That's exactly what.
Yes.
That's
Though,
what I mean. Yeah.
Though 99.9% of all figures are made up on the spot.
Yeah.
But
That is.
never mind.
I've heard that. No, I've read that.
That was the joke.
And I think that's what scares the crap out of me, though, about it.
But yes, but you know, once you get down there, like so my third dive of my first day there was a night dive. So all you got a little glow stick attached to the back of your oxygen tank, and you got your little torch, your flashlight. And so it's just, all right, Bailey, jump into the. Yeah, and so before we got down there, the goddamn dive instructor was playing the Jaws theme.
Okay, I was gonna say like that's.
He was really psyching us up for it. And a song called Reggae Shark. He doesn't want to bite you, he just wants to smoke the ganja, as the lyrics go. So, I mean, he seemed like a cool shark and all. So there comes that moment again, and jumping in is always the hardest part, right? So it's like I get to the edge of the boat, and it's like, here's this big black sea of death. And then you just jump in, and actually at night, so the way that light travels through water, thinking of sunlight as white light, as it travels through water, the many layers of just all of the things within the water, all of the particles and just the water itself, break apart that light signal, that wavelength. And the only wavelength that is kind of, for lack of a better term, strong enough to reach depth is blue.
Okay.
And as is the reason that the ocean appears blue.
Okay.
And so when you're down during the daytime, you're maybe 60 feet under, and you're seeing all of these, like it's 3-story tall, just walls of coral. You know, it's like a city. The whole thing's like the length of Germany.
Wow.
Yeah, it's amazing. And but when you're down there, all of these amazing corals look blue. But when it's a night dive, and the sea, you know, is colorless or black, and you have the flashlight before you, you point it at the coral, and there's no immense layers of water in between you and that light. So a night dive is more colorful than a daytime dive. You point it, and you see all these colors on all these fish and all these corals that you didn't see during the daytime. And you look up, and it's kind of like a little bit of moonlight, a little bit of light from the boat, and it's one of the most serene experiences that I've ever had. You're surrounded by 3-story tall, just like walls of coral. It's like you're in a crater on the moon.
Yeah.
And the dive instructor went to all of us and turned all of our flashlights off. So if I had any fear left, there it went.
Yeah, right.
And your body is really good at kind of keeping you in check, right? It's like, the deeper part of your mind is like, well, Bailey, if you begin to really breathe heavy, you're going to run out of oxygen and you're going to die. So you should probably not do that.
Probably just stay calm.
Yeah, and so your eyes adjust, and it's, just like being outside in the forest in the pitch dark, you can kind of see.
Yeah.
And then he starts swishing his hands around like crazy, and these tiny bioluminescent plankton start lighting up. Like these little fireflies in the ocean. So I'm surrounded by fireflies in a crater in the moon,
Yeah, like
it's,
you might as well be on the moon.
it's one of the most magical experiences I've ever had.
Yeah.
And so, it was very difficult to feel afraid. But, the test of fear came later as we were coming back to the boat. Before that, I was swimming around some sharks. So gray reef sharks, they're about 5 feet long. And the sharks are kind of like dogs, right? If you don't freak out, they don't freak out.
Right, that's what I've heard.
Yeah.
People told me that, and I'm always like, yeah, well, yeah, right.
Yeah,
like,
it depends on the shark, but I'm 6'2", and most people are taller than 4 or 5 feet. So it's not as if the shark is trying to like really take down something their size. They're just trying to have an eat. So unless you specifically look like you shouldn't be there and freaking out, they're really not interested.
They're just kind of, doing
They're like, oh, whatever, I'm a shark. I don't really got to worry too much. But there was one fish that kind of freaked me out. A fish that I did not know existed in the ocean. And so we're swimming back.
See, that's my biggest fear,
that
whole experience.
I knew what it was when I saw it. I just didn't know they got that big. So so we were swimming back to the boat. And so in terms of like density, as you rise, the oxygen in your oxygen tank and in your lungs expands. And so you kind of begin to float more. And as you sink, it contracts and you're able to sink quicker.
Okay.
So if you're not kind of keeping an eye on your buoyancy, you can rise a little bit more than you intended. And so we're right under the boat, and I rise a little bit more than I've intended, but all my mates are under the boat. And so I right myself, and I'm just waiting to kind of exhale and let out a little bit of air, the BCD, and trying to make my way down. And I shine my flashlight up to the boat. And 3 feet away from the ladder that leads back
onto the boat.
Onto the boat.
Dry land.
Yes, 3 feet away from freedom was. So, have you heard of barracudas?
Yes.
So, did you know that there is a species of barracuda known as the great barracuda?
Yes.
So they get about 5 feet. So it's like I shine my light up to see this mechanical. Like silver scale shining back at me attached to these like 3-inch fangs. It's like looking up at this gigantic.
I mean, they look scarier than sharks.
Yeah, it's this gigantic dinosaur, this prehistoric like Godzilla fish, looking at me. And so he's just kind of idling near the ladder, like, hey, what's up?
What are you guys up to?
And it was this fascinating moment in understanding my own heart and mind and body, because I look up and my mind was like, that's pretty terrifying. That's kind of scary, you know. But my breathing didn't change. My heart rate didn't go up because the survival instincts will kick in, and it harkens to this concept of, like, let's say you come. Let's hope you don't. But let's say you come face to face with like a jaguar or some kind of wild animal.
Bear, whatever.
Yeah, if you bears are a little more complicated, but for the specific metaphor that I'm making, but if you run, you're instructing them in a language beyond words that you're prey.
Yep.
But if you show too much aggression, you're challenging something that you might not win. Right? So if you hold your ground, you know, stay calm, be in a place of not being overpowered, but not overpowering.
Just like, it's kind of like just being. Like
exactly. Like looking to this other animal as an equal and not freaking out and catalyzing any intense emotions like, you know, anger, fear, anxiety. And it's amazing. It's a very strange flavor of tranquility. And there I am looking at this animal that could easily murder me, but has no reason to want to. And so if you inhale, you rise. And he was directly above me, so I exhaled everything I had out of my lungs, just like very casually, just like, like everything's gone, don't breathe in yet. And so I'm sinking down to my friends under the boat.
Were you like,
no, you know, so in dive speak, you've got, this is barracuda. I'm not sure if the camera can see. This is barracuda. This is big fucking barracuda, if I can say that. And this is shark. And so I didn't know the sign for barracuda, so I went down to the guys and I'm trying to say, hey guys, there's a bitey thing up there. And before I can signal about this aforementioned, you know, big fucking barracuda, the dive instructor looks at me, he's like, oh, hey Bailey, shark. And I'm like, oh, that's cool.
Because there's another thing up there.
Yeah, exactly. So we're getting circled by 2 gray reef sharks at the bottom of the boat, and they're just like, hey, what's up? We're sharks. You know, they'll use the light of the boat to hunt.
Oh, I see.
And so, you know, I'm just thinking to myself, like, I just can't. It's like I both can't win, and also this is the coolest thing ever. And so, you know, I was like, I'll hang out with the sharks. They seem pretty cool. They seem a little bit, you know, more intelligent.
What were they doing? Just
they were just sweeping around, circling. They were nonplussed with us.
See, that's interesting because I have a friend who was really into scuba diving and all that stuff, and he'd always he'd come back from some trip. This was a long time ago, but he'd come back from some trip and tell me about it, and I would do the same. Like, no, oh, I'm so terrified. And he's like, no, you wouldn't be if you were doing this. Trust me, you wouldn't. You know.
You'd be surprised at what your body will do.
Yeah.
It's just like, nope.
But yeah, he told me all kinds of stories about, like, they'd just be kind of going along and there'd be like a 10-foot great white shark just just kind of going along, you know, and you know, he never shared with me any sort of experience that was like terrifying, or like, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah, it's pretty uncommon. You really gotta, I mean, either be in the wrong place at the wrong time, or purposefully get too close to these animals. Like, there's footage of somebody like trying to ride a tiger shark, and it's like, of course he bit you. That's Darwinism at work. Like, that's like, don't do that. Stupid. That's disrespectful. And so, but long story short, we managed to, the barracuda slowly drifted away from the ladder and we made it up.
So that was just, you just waited for him to kind of go?
We got up there, and my instructor saw him, and as I shined my light on him, and he looked at us and he's like, everybody, look at this barracuda. And I'm like, thank you, that's the first time I've seen that. Cool. You know, like, thanks for bringing that to my attention. And so he doesn't start to rise, so I don't, because this guy's, you know, it ain't his first rodeo.
Yeah, he knows.
So he shines his light in the barracuda's eye, and so I follow suit. And the barracuda gets a little disoriented and kind of like drifts away. And so,
I'm out.
So now he's only about 8 feet away from the ladder, and he's like, all right, we're going up. And I'm like, okay, cool. You never see me get out of the water so quick.
Yeah, I can imagine.
But I made it out, and then you just look up and there's the Milky Way in the sky, because you're so far away.
Wow, that's amazing. Yeah, that was one of my questions for you, because I had seen like whether it be pictures or whatever that you'd been to Australia, and I'm like obsessed with Australia right now.
Oh, Australia is amazing.
Yeah, like we're talking about bucket lists and stuff, but like I don't know, just something about just the culture and the people and the way that just everything about, and New Zealand as well.
Yeah.
Like,
well, you got to visit the Shire.
Well, I know. I'm sure that gets annoying to people from New Zealand.
I'm sure, but I'm too much of a nerd at heart not to visit if I'm there.
Oh, of course, I would totally be there, but yeah, no, I just kind of went through this little like phase or time in my life, and it had nothing to do with politics or Trump or whatever politician.
It can make Australia more alluring, but yes.
Yeah, no, but this was well before any elections. This was just, I was going through some personal stuff, and I was like, you know what, I'm just kind of done. I need to go someplace else. And so I started doing all this research, and New Zealand seemed like the like mothership, like where it all, you know what I mean? And I was like, oh, after doing research and stuff, it's you can't just like you especially a place like New Zealand, you can't just like be like, yeah, you know what, I'm just gonna move there. And but I learned a lot, and I can't wait to go there.
Yeah.
Even if it's just like a nice extended period of time.
You got to do it.
Not to mention that in the hair industry.
Is New Zealand big on hair?
No, not Australia.
Oh yeah.
They are, anything that comes out of Australia, whether it be a product line, color line, technology, something in the industry, it is gold.
Australia's got a strong hair game.
They're killing it. Yeah, and I don't know, I don't think it's always been that way. You always had, more European color companies like Schwarzkopf or whatever that were always just sort of killing it with like anything as far as new technology. But
nice.
But like at the salon that I was at now, like we have several Australian color lines like Evo, stuff like that, and it's just amazing technology, and it's just different approach to everything, than what I'm used to. So I feel like, okay, I've got like sometimes you have to justify if you want to go someplace, especially if it's really far
or expensive.
And so I'm like, okay, I've got several reasons.
Now it's a career study.
Yeah, like I got several.
Write that off.
Yeah, exactly. Love that.
Well, that's excellent.
Yeah. So, so Australia, you went there. You conquered your fear of the ocean. What else did you do when you were there?
Really, that's kind of the long and short of it. Just hung out in the jungle there a little bit.
So an Australian jungle, though, is going to be much different than like the Amazon or Peru.
Yeah, it's a different flavor.
Yeah, what's it?
Just a bunch of bush turkeys, which are very adorable. Made friends with a couple of those. Just hiking through they have these kind of like half mountain hills.
Do you see any crazy snakes and spiders?
No.
You didn't have any?
No, I did not.
I've heard so many stories about how like
there's a lot of stuff out there.
Australia, like just as far as insects and snakes and animals.
Yeah, it's really not as dangerous as obviously just avoid the places in which I saw saltwater crocodiles.
Ooh.
Those are 15 foot long in the wild. They're pretty big. They're pretty mean, but just don't jump in the water.
Yeah, stay out of exactly.
Yeah.
And where did you go in Australia?
Sydney.
You were in Sydney.
And then to Cairns, which is in the north end of Australia, where the Great Barrier Reef's at.
Nice.
Yeah.
Very cool. Where else have you been?
Pretty much Peru and Australia right now. I only recently caught the bug.
You've been anywhere throughout Europe or anything yet?
No. Just traveled throughout the United States, the Southwest, and all that's very beautiful.
I was going to say, I think I've seen more of Europe than I've seen of the United States. That's definitely something I feel like I need to do.
Never been to Europe.
Like I think we're what's your favorite place in, like, where do you go in the United States anyway that like that was had an impact on you?
I would have to say, like, Utah's pretty beautiful. Utah.
I've been to Utah, yeah. It is beautiful, isn't it?
Yeah, or Arizona. Just the red cliffs, like all that, like mountains, all pretty beautiful. Florida, like the diving off the coast of Fort Lauderdale's pretty great.
What about you ever been to New Orleans?
My mother's from New Orleans, and I haven't been there since I was about 12 though.
But you've been though, so you
Yeah,
that's one of my places I'd like.
Yeah, I've thought about living there, and kind of looping back, I realized I opened up talking about a production, and we kind of veered off. But Louisiana and New Orleans is a big production town, and that's one of the.
Is it really?
It's getting a little smaller than it once was, but like a lot of movies get made there.
I did not know that.
A lot of movies get made in Los Angeles, obviously. A lot in Chicago, a lot in New York. And one of the biggest cities these days is Atlanta, Georgia. They are huge. I think they've got all the Marvel movies there.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so they've got a lot of stuff going on. But Chicago's pretty great.
Yeah, I was going to say, like, that's kind of one of the premises of our show, it's just kind of like, people, I don't know if, I think a lot of people in the industry may know how much cool stuff is going down here, but I don't think everybody assumes that. So we're kind of, that's sort of our...
Yeah, definitely. I managed to get my start here in the film industry. Actually, the first job I ever worked on was Transformers 3. As a production assistant. And that was okay. It was tough. It was hard work telling people that they had to walk 3 city blocks to get to work around the giant robot destruction, because not everyone's just really happy to see Bumblebee.
Yeah, I was going to say, I'm sure people were having issues with it.
I got reminded about a lot of taxpayers. Like, I pay taxes, and I'm like, that's cool. I'm sorry. Follow your bliss. But that led me to Man of Steel, where we shot in Plano, Illinois, and a little bit in Chicago. And Man of Steel, man, that was just like summer camp. The cast and crew were so nice.
What? I'm trying to remember. What was
Superman.
Superman, okay.
Yeah, with Henry Cavill.
I'm not
Very nice guy.
My game isn't up on superhero.
Oh, don't worry about it. I saw it because I worked on it, and it was, it was fine. I never really followed too much of Superman. He always seemed a little like, it's like, okay, well, of course he won. He's Superman. Yeah. But then that same person who hired me on to Superman hired me on to Chicago Fire.
Okay.
And Chicago Fire is really where I kind of got my start. So for 4 years, I worked from the first to the end of the 4th season on Chicago Fire and Chicago PD. And after a couple episodes, the producer comes to me and he asks, Bailey, can you shoot and edit? I'm like,
can you shoot what?
Shoot and edit. And I'm like, what? Yes, whatever you need, I got it. Yeah. Somebody's offering you something. The opportunities are, being in the right place at the right time, as well as being prepared to accept them.
Right.
Luck and preparation. And so I was like, yes, whatever you need. I didn't know how to edit, but I figured I'd learn. Yeah. And so I'm learning. Yeah, it's great. It teaches you a lot about everything editing.
Absolutely.
Like what cuts together. But he gave me a job shooting, editing, and directing the making of content, the behind-the-scenes stuff.
Right.
And so if anyone has followed the Chicago shows and seen like the Facebook or YouTube content, either interviews or usually comedic, like sketch comedy stuff or improv things with the actors, that was my job.
Yeah.
And it was like 4 years of college that they paid me to do. My job was to interview passionate people about their craft.
Yeah.
And I have since left that in order to kind of pursue my own projects and to work more in crew.
But you probably learned like a ton.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
How to? So now that you have all that in in your like toolkit, now when you do your own stuff, yeah. Absolutely. Yeah,
absolutely, and so it's now I'm just kind of trying to get a little bit, when you want to work in a creative position like a director of photography or a director, no one at the Chicago Fire level is going to be like, oh, here's $1 million, make a movie, and I'm like, oh, cool, I'll just on the table, I'll take it. But So I'm trying to work more in the indie world, and so
Right on.
so I just worked on a pilot for internet release, a crime drama by the name of Constance Murphy.
Constance Murphy?
Constance Murphy. Pardon my lost voice. And so it's a crime drama following a female private investigator, ex-police or DA, attempting to take down a human trafficking program of the Russian mafia.
Okay.
For kids. And so,
lovely.
yeah. So it was very wonderful. I know the director. We've worked together before. And it's just very lovely to find the right crew that can support you and allow you to kind of create what you need.
That you kind of got on like independently, or
Yeah,
you had
so
to like find your own crew, or did you?
I found my own crew just from the people and family that I've found through my career. I got the job because the director is by the name of Jeremy Earl, very wonderful, talented, ex-police officer and actor. And I met him on the set of Chicago PD, and I interviewed him. It's funny because he was playing a villain, but he was a police officer. But that's one of the things that he gets typecast as a gangbanger, as a black actor.
Oh God!
It was
I can see that.
such irony that he's a cop.
Yeah.
And so I interviewed him about his role, and he's like, "This is really good. You want to be the director of photography of a film?" And so I worked on another film of his called Markham Tactical, and that was very wonderful. And so he came back a couple of years later, and he's like, "I got another one." And I'm like, "Yeah, you do. Let's do it."
Do it.
Yeah. And so it was a wonderful set, and that's why it went so well that I lost my voice.
Oh, so this is just like as of like what's going on right now.
Yes, this ended Sunday, and it's Thursday now.
Okay.
So we were kind of skeleton crew, so I ended up doing a lot of the kind of like making sure that everyone's in the right place and on time, like the kind of like first AD stuff. Just because it needed to get done.
Right.
Which is fine. And so there's a lot of projecting of the voice that's involved in there, and not to say I was yelling at anyone, like, "You motherfuckers!"
I know
No,
what you mean.
Yeah, I was kindly raising my voice.
Right.
But yeah, it was wonderful, and I had a beautiful camera crew, a wonderful couple of gaffers that are in charge of lighting and electric department, and I just couldn't be prouder of those guys.
Cool.
Yeah.
So I'm putting a little bit of Evo liquid rollers.
Liquid rollers?
Secret ingredient.
Secret ingredient.
No, it's not so much secret, but it's my favorite. I work with a lot of curl, and I use a lot of the We Did products, but like I feel like liquid rollers is always like, it always just works out well, and I feel like I would normally go right to We Did products if I was doing curl, but with like you're a guy, your curls are on the top, and it gives you just a little bit more holds than it just is. It's a nice finish, and you can kind of maneuver it around, and it doesn't get hard like gel or
none of
anything like that. And gives you some volume. But so yeah, I put a little bit of that in there, and I just want to kind of line it up.
Oh yeah. You do what you need to do.
Yeah. So what's next?
So
is that project done, completed?
That project is filmed. So
so you still have to go.
So we got to do post-production now, and so
Yeah.
I just handed it off to the editor.
Okay.
And the director.
You don't have to do any editing for that then.
No, I would like to be in the editing room, and especially for color correction. And so the director of this film was also an actor in one of the days, and I helped him with direction on that day. And we're just close buddies, so both of us together are going to kind of help oversee the post-production of this. And so we have a very talented editor, Mark Voss, who's going to kind of oversee this. But
and so is he?
Go ahead.
So I always wonder how it works, like in the in the industry and everything. So when you're looking for someone to do your editing and stuff, that's all they do then.
Sometimes. I
Or
mean,
sometimes 2 days?
like, because I feel like the way that my career has led me, it is kind of put me in a place of being able to do a lot of things like editing and shooting. But there, specializing is sometimes people specialize, sometimes people just do a whole bunch of stuff.
Right. And what do you feel like you're? It sounds like you do a whole bunch of stuff.
I've definitely grown into the industry as a jack of all trades, and I'm trying to specify in the realms of being a director of photography and just a plain director for performance.
Where'd you go to film school?
I went to film school at Columbia College, Chicago,
Yeah.
for
Nice.
for cinematography. Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, the little bit of limited experience I've had doing film, not just commercials though, nothing like what you're doing, and just
Hey, commercials are good.
Yeah,
Those are the rock star jobs. You get paid more.
Yeah. But that was like totally the point that was stressed to me. The friend of mine that kind of would sort of gave me the lead into it, or the,
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You know how it is in Chicago. Like you have to know somebody.
Yeah.
It's just like it's not necessarily.
They're less interested in your resume, and they're more interested in somebody can tell you that you're worth your salt.
Yeah, and
You got to be worth your salt, but yeah.
Yeah, and her big thing was always like she liked that I could do so many different things, and that's always useful, especially in non-union type gigs.
Yeah.
So I was kind of, always never knew how to feel about that I like to do a lot of different things, but I think it's definitely a strong
No, it's nice. Yeah.
thing to.
It's good to I feel like, at least for me, it's to the point that I feel like I need to start getting a little bit more specific, so I can just like improve more completely into one area.
Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah, so I'm gonna continue down. I've actually got another project coming up in the end of April. I'm gonna be the DP, the director of photography of a horror pilot for internet release. Yeah, so that should be a lot of fun.
Cool.
Shadows on Haunted Hill. I know, sounds super spooky.
So a show then, though, not
Yeah,
just
show.
like a documentary or a movie or a show.
Yeah, so hopefully something repeating, because I feel like there's a lot more revenue in series these days.
Yeah, people are all into the binge watching of favorite shows these days.
Yeah, so I'll be doing that. In the interest of continuing to improve as a director, I'm studying acting and Shakespeare and also improv at Second City, which is just the best place, to go.
Yeah.
They don't do Shakespeare, but they do wonderful improv.
Yeah, they do. No, but a lot of those people, they study all of it.
Yeah.
I have a client too who was kind of like doing that came to Chicago for the acting, comedy, and all that, and ended up his interest being Shakespeare.
Dude, Shakespeare's amazing. And I think, because you read Othello or Romeo and Juliet in high school, and it's like, I don't know what they're saying. And there's like a level of stubbornness to it. But when you go back and you kind of open up your willingness to understand and almost read it like a foreign language, like we were talking about Spanish. Because, think, because there's the textbook definition, but there's also the emotion behind it. There's there's the context. So there's like that classic line that everyone knows in Romeo and Juliet, and it's like, wherefore art thou Romeo? And so what came to my mind, before I started studying, and what I feel comes to many people's minds is like that classic, Juliet's up here, like, wherefore art thou Romeo? And he's like, I'm down here, what's up? Let's hang out, come on. But because just reading the play with footnotes, there's you look at wherefore, and you find that the definition is why.
Yep, I was going to say, wherefore art thou isn't exactly what people think it means.
Yeah, exactly. And so when you think about why are you Romeo? And so you think contextually that's when she just found out that he's a Montague. And she's like, why is the one motherfucker that I fell in love with gotta be Romeo?
The one that I can't.
Like, oh my God, like, why are you Romeo? You know, like, what the fuck? And I always find that adding expletives like fuck to Shakespeare can really help you find the emotion.
Yeah, exactly.
But it really unlocks a world into these very beautiful and powerful stories, you know?
Yeah.
And then you start to realize, like, oh shit, this is why people like Shakespeare.
Yeah.
Turns out he was a pretty good writer. I know that's an unpopular opinion.
Yeah, right. All right, so how's the length? I didn't cut a whole lot of length off. I kind of just trimmed it down. But I did take, I'd say a good amount off here. It's wet right now, so everything's really curling up.
I would say I'd have to know after it dries, but it's looking good.
Do you want me to feed it with the blow dryer?
Oh, yeah, let's do it.
Yeah, cool.
Open in the locker.
Yeah, open the locker.
It's serious now.
Yep, it's on.
This is where we have to abandon sound, right?
Yeah, that's pretty much. If anything, we could just cut and then come back.
Oh, yeah.
You know,
Power of editing. Oops.
Yeah, I like to stay with So this is a diffuser.
Oh, yeah. Whoa, what's that?
Yeah. This is what you use for curls.
Oh, really?
Yeah, if you go in there with like a regular blow dryer, it just blows everything, and then you end up with frizz or an afro. So here's the thing: when you're at home, if you don't have one of these handy,
I certainly don't.
Yeah, you probably don't. You might have a friend. Or
I usually just blow it and do this, blow it and do this.
If you have a female friend,
I have a roommate, but
you do.
Yeah, she curls her hair though.
Well, here's the
like
thing.
With curlers.
Almost every blow dryer that you buy will come with one.
I'll see.
And it's probably like in the bottom of her cabinet, and she doesn't even know what it is. Most people don't until you tell them.
Yeah.
But anyway, but all that being said, when you're at home and you're styling it, literally like you put product in it and let it air dry, and that's what this is kind of mimicking.
Okay.
If you hit it with a blow dryer, it's just gonna go all over the place.
That's where I've found the most luck, because especially with it's hard enough for me to find a product that's vegetarian.
By the way, my Evo.
I checked. That's why I was looking at it.
Yep.
Yeah, good job.
I figured you'd like that. It's one of the reasons. It's not necessary for me personally, but it's one of the things I do really like about them.
Yeah,
and their involvement in just like the environment and preserving and different.
Because they made microbeads illegal. Can you hear about that?
No.
So like in a lot of facial products that put microbeads for scrubbing away like dirt. It was like for face washes, but microbeads are just plastic, and so they'd go into the water supply. Right, and so there was like a huge problem with microbeads showing up like all over water treatment plants.
Wow.
So they just made them illegal.
Oh wow.
Yeah, dude.
Yeah, that's what I love about it. Yeah.
Yeah, plastic's pretty terrible.
Pretty terrible.
It's pretty terrible stuff.
There's all kinds of stuff they put in hair products and whatnot to fill and make more of and all that.
Yeah.
It's terrible. But there's a few that I have sort of kind of like narrowed down to that I love them and I will only use those, and we did. It's interesting because a lot of the, department heads and like brand ambassador, organizers and stuff crossed over from Evo and WeDad.
Oh, really?
Kind of like there's a lot of crossover with that, and and it's the way the products are formulated. Even before I knew that, was like, God, this reminds me so much of like Evo products, and then I found out that there is sort of a connection there. Just in the people that work for them.
Yeah.
That create the products and engineers and stuff like that. So. And I always do like the Diva Curl thing with my with the curls.
The Diva Curl.
But I just recently got certified with WeDad, and like it just blew. It was like Pandora's box just opening. Like,
Pandora's curl.
My head open and was like, oh wow! Now I understand so much more about. It was a starting point, but this took me to a different level of understanding, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Oh yeah, dude. You're
By no means
mastering
a master, blah, 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 I know everything, but...
Well, the best students are teachers, right? Like, the more you improve, the more you expand your ability to learn.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's like there's never like a I'm done.
Oh,
Like,
never.
Yeah.
I mean, with anything, but especially with hair, because the trends, everything's changing so often and quickly.
Yeah. To quote a combination of philosophers and Bill and Ted, like true wisdom comes from knowing that you know nothing, and that must make us geniuses.
Right. Hold on, I just wanted to dim this.
Oh yeah, get in there.
Yeah. Just seeing this a little bit of the weight.
You saying I gotta lose weight?
No,
Actually,
your hair.
I'm actually the heaviest I've ever been. I'm very proud of it.
Yeah, I was gonna say, really? Like, have you ever had that concern in your life?
I've had a lot of trouble gaining weight.
Right, I was gonna say I could see that, but because you're so tall, I mean, it's just like, of course I hate you for that problem, but, or most people have the opposite problem, but like I can see that, especially if you have a fairly healthy metabolism.
Yeah,
and active,
and keeping vegetarian.
You just gotta, and vegetarian, you gotta like, I can't even imagine how hard it is to just like keep everything, all those, balances in line.
Yeah, well, health-wise, it's pretty great, but in terms of just like gaining weight, it's just like, all right.
It makes it tricky, yeah. The gaining weight, I would think, would just be a matter of the muscle, right? Could you just do it with like...
Yeah, so it's just a matter of like pea protein, hemp protein. Gotta avoid soy. Soy has too much phytoestrogen in it. So it's like literal estrogen. So it like aggravates breast cancer in men and women, can end up making you gain weight.
I've never heard anything positive about it.
It's hyperprocessed.
I remember like 10 years ago, it was like a trend, and I ordered soy and everything, and then like now all the information comes out, and I avoid it.
Oftentimes prescribed to women in menopause for the same reason of phytoestrogens, but for everybody else.
Yeah, not for a young lad.
No, just for everything, for everything else aboard. Yeah.
All right. Well, here we are, Bailey.
Sweet.
You digging it? Now, here's the thing. Everybody, of course, you're going to want to touch it because it's finished.
Such as.
But the less you touch your... Because I left it damp on purpose. There's a reason you don't take the hair to 100%, even if you have a diffuser, because there's just something at that last 20% where it's... The follicle just kind of like opens up and you get frizz.
If you love it, let it go.
Yeah, so you can always, like, if you don't want to leave the house with sopping wet hair, you just showered, and you hit it with a diffuser, and you get it, like, to this point, just let the rest air dry. But if it's damp like this, you don't want to be messing with it too much, because the more you mess with it, the more it gets bigger and bigger, and next thing you know, you have an afro.
Oh, neat. Okay.
But how's this? How's the sides? Yeah,
everything's good, yeah.
Nice and
this is great.
Is it short enough?
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I didn't want to do like a skin fade on you. I
didn't skin fade, like the sides? Fade. No.
Yeah, no.
Do like a straight mohawk.
But it did take it pretty short.
No, I like it like this though. This is good.
All right, so we got you all cleaned up.
Yeah.
Ready to go. Don't forget to check us out, guys. We are all over the place these days, but SoundCloud, Vimeo, iTunes, or YouTube. But definitely check out our website, www.splittinghairs.com. And share with your friends, and definitely check out Bailey here. Where can we find you?
Sure. I don't have a particular website, but a lot of my travel photography, and whenever Constance Murphy or any more of my projects will come out, I'll put it on Instagram, and my tag is just my name, Bailey.Pokorny. So BAYLEY.POKORNY is a good check name.
Perfect. And we will keep our website updated with all that info as well. Bye.